Buckle up, this magic school bus is going for a ride. Come with us as we take the train and go deep in the underground, a place where no man has ever gone before. You know Daddy doesn't like to wait. Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 9, Jane Patrol. The AfterBuzz After Show starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I feel like this episode is what all of our minds should never look like. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Doom Patrol has become therapy session after therapy session for me. I don't know how it feels for you guys.
I really have been enjoying it, though.
Of course you have.
Personally, maybe I just need therapy, but it was really cool to see Jane kind of like, we've been wanting to go in the underground for like episodes upon episodes, so it's kind of like, it was cool because I feel like Jane got to kind of, to an extent, overcome some of her past trauma.
Well, Jane is one of the most enigmatic characters on Doom Patrol, but not as enigmatic as this panel right here. All the way to my left, the enigmatic Oliver.
What's up?
Whose mind has 204,009 personalities. Yeah. And of course, Elena Jordan.
I'm like the Riddler. I'm so enigmatic.
Three people. You're three people.
That's still, I mean...
Enigma.
Yeah, you're E, Nig, and Ma.
Yep.
That's the truth.
Cool.
That's the truth of the matter.
No,
I'll be your host.
Riddler's real name. All right, whatever. DC
You have to get it.
I try to make it work.
The puns.
Oh.
This is the queen of puns. I'm Tehran. I will be your host as we get into this episode of Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 9, Jane Patrol, coming off of Danny Patrol. So it's like, here we are with the names again, and then the next one is Hair Patrol, where it's like, wait, which one is hair? But we find out a lot. We do go into the underground. We definitely are going to talk about the underground and the train ride, that whole experience, Jane's father and that molestation, which was so like eerily creepy and weird, even though they didn't even show anything. It was just like something about it made it so awkward. 64 personalities of Jane, and we're gonna try to delve into each one, the ones that we actually got to meet. And there's some we have a lot to say about, some that we only touched on. The sisters with the three heads, the well, oof, never want to go there, would never take a drink from that. Cliff was a big part of this episode. We're going to talk about Jane's father a lot. The segment where we decide which scene related or reflected us the most. News and gossip. We do have some great tidbits to talk about and wonderful predictions. So let's get right into it after we go through this after show. Here we go. Overall thoughts, Oliver. Doom Patrol, Jane.
Well, I agree with Ivan Soto in the chat. Yes, we're looking at the chat this week. We love you guys tuning in. I agree with you, Ivan, because I think Diane Guerrero needs an Emmy or some kind of recognition because she's killing it in this role. It must be so strenuous for her to commit to all these different types of personalities, and it's just so fun, and it was really cool to see her play with all of the freaking personalities and seeing them actually as different actors too. I wasn't expecting that, so I really enjoyed that in the episode.
Same.
Elena.
Jane, I think, is probably my favorite character just because she is so dynamic and there's so many personalities and so many elements there. So, yeah, getting to see the actual physical embodiment of what she sees each of these personalities to be was a really cool element. And knowing that some of them look like her and some of them don't,
Right.
and that, like, it's all just a kind of unexplained, somewhat random, but not really. They each serve their own purpose. It was really cool. It was cool having teased up to the underground 9 episodes in, finally going and seeing it.
Well, I also liked the different looks that we got, and I also was wondering, how come so many of the personalities kind of overlap? Like, why is she so mean in so many personalities? Can't we get some
because
nice
she
ones?
was molested.
I understand, but they are all mean. Like, some of the characters are just another angle of meanness where it's like when you're writing, you're
like Driller Bill.
Exactly. It's just like,
But it's
well,
like,
at least she was black,
in her
right?
head, she has like this kind of rough and tumble like gang of people who are there to protect her. So she needs those kind of mean personalities.
Does she need all of them though? I mean, Hammerhead seems to be the template, and then they're
64
all kind
is
of like
a lot, but
Hammerhead. They're all kind of Hammerhead. I would have liked to have seen some not be that. And some could have been different
we did. We saw
forms
like
of it.
Penny Farthing. We saw
Sure.
like some really creepy, like almost American Horror Story-esque creatures.
Which
we saw
which ones in particular?
like the Blackeness.
Black Innis, was that actually her? Was it a personality?
That's one
or
of
was
her
it
personalities.
a defense mechanism?
Well, I think it's one of
That's
hers
something
because
we're gonna have to get
since each
into.
personality, like it's whatever is in her head, any living thing in the underground, like the sisters, I think all count as one.
Sure, because the three-headed sisters, but this might actually...
I think actually is one of the 64.
Then we're going to have to talk to the writers because some of those don't add up. We have possibly more than 64 personalities, and that's going to
Really?
be a thing.
I counted 21 this episode.
Yeah, this episode, but if you remember, we've also gotten a live count of the ones that have come before and the ones from the comic book. So,
but they may not
interesting.
necessarily put all the ones from the comics because they may switch some up.
Well, we'll see. We shall see.
We'll
That's
see.
a debate. That's a topic. Let's talk about something. Let's discuss the underground because that's where they all reside. All these personalities reside. I mean, obviously, I really like this episode and getting that underground and starting off with that startling imagery of Hammerhead dragging Karen. We see coming off the end of last episode into this episode, Karen falls into the abyss, and then here she's dragged by unseen character, and then it turns out Hammerhead's just dragging her by her hair on the train tracks into the pit where they're all there waiting. What you guys think about this underground?
I mean,
Oh no, go ahead. No, I like to shout out the chat. Obviously, Ivan Soto also said a fun tidbit about the actress that plays the real Hammerhead. She's bald because she's battling 3 types of cancer. So I thought that was a really fun fact. Thank you, Ivan, for that. That was cool. Elena, proceed.
well, much love to her. I hope that
Absolutely, yes.
good health
But that's cool.
soon. So, but yeah, just seeing the juxtaposition of the Arkansas like 1957, like the cave with the puzzles, and kind of getting that like
Right.
early allusion to this is like the triggering moment that is what caused her to split.
Right.
Which so far we have 64, but I mean, people with MPD can continue to split and have more, so that
Right.
might be the case here, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
No, I was going to say, I like you brought up the puzzle. I like the symbolism with the puzzle because basically that kind of symbolizes how we as viewers have been watching this and kind of been needing the pieces of the puzzle to figure out with not just Jane, but everyone, because I feel like there's still so many unanswered questions. I mean, with Cyborg, obviously, he wasn't really in this episode, but especially with Jane, we need those pieces of the puzzle. And it just goes to show that in her backstory, she was doing a puzzle, and it was really horrifying to know, like, the past with her father, which was just creepy and just disgusting.
Was I the only one that got Matrix vibes? With the train and the train tracks
It
and the
was a
opening the
little
doors and going
Matrix-y.
into the rooms. I realize it's more not Matrix Reloaded, the second one or whatever, Revolutions, whatever it was called.
I mean, I thought that the fact that the puzzle and having just like the fragments all being put together to form the one picture, which is, kind of a physical representation for Jane's whole mentality, is that, seeing this, we don't get the full picture of the lake, this serene place, this escape that she goes to until we have all 64 of those working cohesively, which right now we know Jane is frozen on the table in the lab because she's not working cohesively with all of those pieces. If there's one puzzle piece missing, the whole thing is incomplete. So I thought that was a really cool metaphor. But kind of going off on the train too, and even seeing more when Cliff goes in and seeing more of the details of like the flickering lights and just how decrepit it is. I thought that was such a cool physical manifestation of how she sees herself as this kind of broken, damaged person. And so her psyche and her mentality, she could create any world she wants. She can have this serene, beautiful landscape that, she sees in the puzzle and brings it to life. But she chooses, and because of this trauma that she hasn't fully developed, feels she deserves this decrepit, abandoned, Matrix-esque subway tunnel.
It's interesting. What would be your
My mental
state?
reservoir?
Yeah, what's your mental residency?
I mean, if I had a whole bunch of different personalities, probably like some sort of crazy like Mall of America type thing.
Mall of America.
Where there's like one that like just hangs out on the roller coaster all the time, and then there's like another one that's like going through like something really deep and meaningful, like some serene shop. I could see that.
I could see that being
Yeah,
the thing.
like
The Mall
a
of
kind
America.
of,
That you
yeah,
come
like
off
a
as the
like a
Mall
like
of
a
America.
market, but with different kind of stuff in it. I don't know.
Oliver, your mental state of residency.
Oh God, that might be a comic convention, honestly, or a comic book store.
that'd be a good
I
one.
find myself getting lost in those. There's so many different things and stuff that I like personally, so I feel like that kind of would represent me in my mental state, kind of having a breakdown, but also having these comforting things such as comics and action figures.
I
Help me.
like
Yeah.
that. I want to steal yours now.
Oh.
Even though I work at different Comic Con, so I'm like, that kind of is my mental breakdown.
That's
Is like
interesting.
by the end of the show, and I'm
Right.
like,
You could have the toys to play with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like mine would be a mansion, like a mansion party, possibly.
That'd be nice.
Would go. That's
So,
where I'm
so what?
mentally.
So what?
I already think I live there. I don't know if I would have what I would have to ride out though. Would it be like a Ferrari or would it be something normal? But with Jane's case, she had a train. And she had a driver 8, who we get to meet. But that train metaphor is one we've seen. Like I said, it was a Matrix nod, in my opinion. I know that they might not have thought of it, but that's what the first thing that kept coming to my mind. How'd you guys perceive the train?
we've seen kind of a train as a metaphor, I think, in various literary devices and also in kind of film and television too, of this
Yeah.
idea of transporting yourself from one area to the next, from one plane to the next.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even like The Good Place, which I love, they have like the train to the different dimensions and all of these different things. So, I mean, it makes sense that she would have a train that she has to take. We've seen like the train to the underworld kind of referenced before too.
What did people have before we invented trains? Like, what was their metaphor for the
Friggin' like horses.
horse and
The
carriage
horses
out?
of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just all like that was horses was your means of transport.
With this train, it has been done before.
It's her train of thought,
Yeah,
literally.
that's actually strong. Pun jar for you. Oliver, how'd you feel about the train?
Pretty much kind of like now Elena's kind of like enlightening me about the whole train of thought, like she just said, but also kind of finding yourself, like you take a train to go home, like it's trying to go home, find yourself, and hopefully to your loved ones. And also because we saw the Doom Patrol being so caring about Jane in her state of where she was last seen at the episode, she's unconscious and whatnot. So to me, it was also kind of going home to your support group, which is the Doom Patrol.
I don't know, because it was the train that she was also taking out. So it was the train to the driver's seat. Whoever's in control of the body at that time takes the train in and out, which makes me also think how long it takes to be on this train. Of course, in your mind, time is perceived so much differently than in the real world. How long was she actually out as opposed to how long did she perceive her being out? There are times where you wake up from dreams that feel like they're 2 days long and they've all happened in 10 minutes.
To me, I thought that it was like a metaphor of like the synapses in the brain, where like it actually in our time moves immediately, like very fast, but in I guess synapse form, that's a long distance for it to have to travel. You know, like everything is kind of relative, like the packets of information getting sent, and the train, the metaphor of having your train derailed, literally being the situation where mentally she's incapacitated because her train is derailed. She
Wow.
intentionally
She's off the
derails her
tracks. She's
off the tracks.
but her train was on the track. What's the chat saying? Anything great?
Shouting out to Ivan still, because Ivan's such an MVP. Crazy Jane as a character overall is based on a real life person. He keeps saying this in the chat. I just want to shout it out. Trudy Chase, she wrote an autobiography, When Rabbits Howl. So that's, if you want to get to know about the inspiration behind Crazy Jane, you should probably check out When Rabbits Howl. So that was,
Well, that's great.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's great. That's why we enjoy each and every one of you on our panel, because it's not just, you're not in the chat room. You are part of the panel, if not as much, more so a part of this panel than we are. And we appreciate each and every one of you.
And honestly, you guys really just make our whole lives better because we're able to do these shows because of you.
Right.
We love being a part of AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of
There you
TV talk. Boom. I can say letters.
Absolutely. You did it amazing.
But we're here because of you guys. So be sure to keep us around by rating, subscribing, giving us those thumbs up, those 5 stars, the comments, the likes. We love keeping the conversation going, and we love the ability to kind of bring our after show to more people and just grow
Right.
our audience and have you guys with us the whole time.
Yes.
Oh,
Well said.
I love that. And there's no more people than inside Jane's brain. 64 personalities. That's crazy. Let's talk about as many as we can. We saw a bunch. You counted 21 in this episode?
I counted 21, including Miranda.
Including Miranda. So let's go through. I'm just gonna go through names, and I want to
Okay.
know what you guys thought. Karen, of course, coming off of last episode, was almost the centerpiece of last episode with her ability to control people in a form.
Yeah.
Persuade them.
Exactly, and also she
Creepy-eyed Karen.
had this 90s rom-com fantasy of life, and she had Doug. Then of course that's ended. So now we get into this episode, and she was kind of possibly part of the break because of something Cliff said.
She was Karen too much.
She was Karen too much. Another one in the pun drawer.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of Karen?
I mean, I like Karen's whole deal. I mean, her with Cliff in the jail, I thought was a really, really funny scene, and them kind of going back and forth, a little tete-a-tete. But I mean, Karen, it's hopeless for her. It's what she says, like, marriage isn't an option here. And it's because you can't have somebody marry all 64 of you. You would have to explain the whole scenario, and the other personalities are not going to let that happen. They're just going to make you bail.
I mean, I with Karen, this is what I mean when I said characters kind of overlap. Karen didn't stay in that character all the time. She had a really ruthless, snotty side that overlapped with Hammerhead. And I don't understand why so many characters kind of do that.
Well, I mean, they fight each other, too, because it's like a whole, like, dominance thing, too.
They do.
Like, I mean, Hammerhead is literally throwing her in this mental jail to make sure that she doesn't try to hijack the train and emerge
Right.
again. You know, so it
Sure,
shows
but she
that...
also makes the same, very similar snarky remarks, because there's this thing in Doom Patrol right now where Cliff and Jane's various forms have this uncanny ability to say things that are below the belt. And often the below the belt is being portrayed, especially when it comes in this episode. For example, Black Annis hits Cliff
A
down
literal
right-
below the belt.
Below the belt. But we see a lot of these jabs that are just totally below the belt. We saw last episode with Cyborg and Cliff is like, you're going to kill. And then we see it again in this episode with Jane and from Cliff, very end of last episode which sets up everything in this episode. We see a lot of these below the belt jabs. Jane, constant forms, says very horribly mean, possibly true, but just harsh things to
That's her whole
characters.
defense mechanism.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to get close to anybody. The person that
Sure.
she was supposed to be able to trust and care about the most betrayed her
Right.
in the most horrific way possible.
Horrifically, and I understand
When
that.
she
but
was most vulnerable. So
it's
this is
every
a
one of
situation
those
where she's
characters.
never letting herself be vulnerable again. Even Penny Farthing, who we see later, you know, like says, this is not my job. My job is to run.
My job is to run
Most
away.
of these, it's a fight or flight thing. Most of the personalities are fight because Kay couldn't fight. So she overcompensates with all of the majority of her personalities being these really confrontational, really aggressive, able to defend themselves, intimidating characters, but then also having like Baby Doll and Penny and these kind of more vulnerable characters so that she can also have that flight capability if she
you
needs to.
brought up Kay Olivia Chance, Olivia, who's the little kid. Let's talk about that's
Chalice.
that's the original. She's the original as far as we can tell. That is actually who Jane truly is supposed to be. Olivia, feelings, thoughts.
I mean, I just think it's so sad. Just the whole story, Kay's whole original thing of having to become an entirely different personality and bury her own personality so deep because she's so fragmented by the situation. I mean,
Now Kay doesn't even exist anymore. There is no Kay.
Kay's somewhere in there, but hidden deep down.
I felt like there was no Kay. I felt like Kay
think
was never
Kay's
more.
still-
Jane
well, I mean,
is the primary now, the way Miranda was.
Yeah, but it's like it's the primary personality that she puts out there. Like, I mean, we even saw when Kay was in the high school or in the middle school or whatever she was, whenever she finally fragments out and turns into Miranda. It's at that point that she finally triggers and represses herself. But I mean, with most people with multiple personality disorder, and what I assume would be the case for this character too, is that your actual personality is there. It just may be buried so deep that the therapy that it takes to get to is just almost impossible.
Yeah, it had this primal fear feeling to me. I don't know if you guys watched Primal Fear, but it reminded me of that. Well, before the ending, but that same empathy that you have for that character and the defense mechanism and all those things. What did you think, Oliver?
I'm just kind of confused because the chat's kind of going back and forth of whether or not Kay is dead or is she might be alive still within the underground. I don't know, but it's just sad to see a character, a little child who was abused, and it just shows the effects of abuse, and I'm glad that they didn't have to show exactly what it was.
It was so, like, the fact that they didn't even show anything. They literally just implied the implication. It wasn't even, and it was so effective. I mean, I felt icky. Yeah, it was just like, ugh. Like,
it's because the voice and the repetition, just the way that it was all done was just so creepy. And that final moment of when Jane does confront Kay and, sees her and is like, you're perfect, and this really sad, heartfelt moment. And finally her leaving when Daddy shows up and is like, sweet baby, come with me.
She goes, Jane
going.
goes.
Oh, that was just...
it was just so
Kay,
chilling.
like, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
so
it was.
chilling.
I felt the exact same vibes where it's just like, oh.
You just feel like a ghost passes through you.
It's so, and remember, it was just, they didn't actually show anything. They literally showed an embrace. The acting was so done well. That guy, I hate that guy forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's when you know you're so good. It's because he's probably the nicest, sweetest guy, but he was able to express with simply a look. That's such strong acting. Let's go through a couple other characters. Kit with Can Stick.
Yeah, well, Karen, Hammerhead, then, yeah.
Sure.
Kit with Can Stick.
Thoughts, Kit? I mean,
we don't really, we only see
didn't
it for like
her.
a second.
I want to know everyone's powers. I kind of want to know everyone's powers.
Me too. Scarlet Harlot, I think, was just the power of being a smoke show.
Yeah, right. Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah,
Scarlet was hot. But I mean, each one has a different power. Lucy, Fugue.
Yeah, we've seen Lucy before.
We've seen Lucy for a second. Silver Tongue, of course, we all know Silver Tongue.
Yeah.
Silver Tongue looked like Silver Tongue. It was actually pretty
cool.
Yeah,
I like
had
that.
the silver thing around on her face. Jillian Irons. We got a Jillian Irons sighting.
Yeah.
Like this maiden or something of some sort. Mama Pentecost was in there.
Yeah, who just looked like she was about to just like Kill Bill style.
Exactly.
Mess somebody up.
Yeah, I really want to know. The nun was kind of freaky.
Right.
The nun was terrible with a friggin' chainsaw. Like, I'm like,
A nun with a chainsaw.
Here.
I mean, I want to see these characters
and then
and
people
their
are
powers.
like, what's wrong with Jane? Oh, maybe the fact she's got a nun with a chainsaw living in her head that could pop out at any time. Like, what if you're hanging out, like, having dinner with Jane, and then nun with chainsaw emerges?
We
These
saw
nuns, man.
Pretty Polly.
I don't want none of that.
What's the deal with Pretty Polly? Because it seemed like she is never, like, on the outside.
She's never been up, yeah.
Right. So that was
we know some of the personalities. I think she was just there so that we know that some of them haven't even emerged. Yeah.
Which was interesting, and I wonder why exactly.
And now it seems like we're gonna get Jane for the most part because Jane has returned with purpose to the driver's seat, even though at the end it was very freaky because the dad's voice came back.
Terrifying.
The Flit. I think we've seen Flit.
Yeah,
Is Flit the teleporter?
is the one who moves. Yeah.
Yeah, teleporter.
Space.
Baby doll. We also have gotten a baby doll. Baby doll's the super fan.
I like seeing what
fangirl.
baby doll looked like.
Yeah, she was like a baby doll. It was cute. It
Yeah,
was sweet.
she's kind of creepy.
And she was, it was like a grown woman and a baby.
It's not what I was expecting.
Fetishy, very fetishy. The secretary. I want to know what the secretary does. Is she really good at taking notes? She's the one that keeps everything. Of course, we met Driver 8, who is basically just Jane in a train costume and a little more
Train Jane.
logic.
Train
Cool.
Jane.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was another one that it was like she was like just there because she serves a purpose.
A purpose.
She's there
A lot
to
of these
drive the
people had a
train.
purpose. Yes.
And it's to really just reinforce that each of the personalities has a job and has a task. And some of them are a little bit more surface level than other ones. And some are a little bit more fleshed out, even in her own brain.
Yeah.
It seems like.
It seems that they do. They may not. They respect Jane because they know that she is at the top
The primary.
of them all.
They all
Yeah.
know she's the primary.
Right.
Even Hammerhead is there, but is protective of Jane and is the one who's like, Jane, you have to go up there. Like she's forcing Jane to take control. They don't want to be in that driver's seat. None of them do. Almost. Penny Farthing
Yeah.
and her
know,
job.
little
I run.
Penny.
That's my job. That was very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that whole memory and just Penny being like explaining, sometimes the good memories get stuck to the bad ones and seeing the flip side of that. And like Penny's little runaway oasis is actually where everything started. Like the impulse to just, I wish I could just run away from everything. Penny was probably one of the first personalities to emerge, I'm assuming, because
she runs away.
yeah, and because she's even saying, I thought I was the only one who knew about this memory, and this is what we find out is the very beginning, like where it all began. I think that probably was it. Was just this little girl that's like, I wish I could run away, I can't. Well,
With an English
a little scared, stuttery British girl who can just run away. I'll be her.
Yeah. We also got Driller Bill, who came in and punched Cliff, and that was basically it. But another tough. See, it was just another tough person. Like Driller Bill is a puncher. Like she came off. She was a black lady, which was cool. But other than that, I don't understand everyone's purpose. Jack Straw.
That's one that I thought was kind of just a creepy, like.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Am I missing any of the personalities? I know you went through and wrote them all down.
And the sisters.
Of course, Miranda, Jane,
Yeah.
and Black
Ennis.
Ennis, and the sisters. So I saved Black Ennis and the sisters because they actually played a much more significant role on their own. Miranda being the primary. What were your thoughts on Miranda? Close the door. Like, I need to meet Miranda. Out of all these personalities, which one is the one that you want to meet? Give me your top 3.
What's frustrating is that Crazy Jane is just, to me, it's hard to even answer that question because she's such a complex, interesting character. And seeing this episode, it made me kind of just salty because, like, I want a Crazy Jane series, like television show, just dedicated to her because I feel like it's almost a disservice to her. I love this show so much, but I want to know more about her. There's so much things you can do. You can have a cast literally just centered around Jane and all of these personalities. You already have these roles, these personalities casted. So
I feel like the show
I can't answer that question.
gives you a lot of Jane already. I would love a spinoff, but the show itself is also giving us a lot of Jane. Jane is clearly the
But
catalyst.
I literally, well, I mean, we didn't see the characters, but I kind of forgot about everyone else, and I love Rita so much, but I was like, dang, I really want a show dedicated to Crazy Jane. It'd be so
But
cool.
that's, I think, part of why I like this show so much is that they have these dedicated episodes that they don't try to just wedge everybody in. Like, they had the kind of A storyline with Jane in her own underground, and then the B storyline with Cliff coming into the storyline, or into the underground, and then kind of a little bit of a C storyline of everybody back in the lab that we know at the end something happened because the lab is all trashed when she comes to, and she's just like, what happened? And they're like, that's a long story. But instead of showing us that long story or trying to shoehorn it in just to put the other characters in, they just focus on Jane.
Jane, yeah, they just kind of move past it.
is so good on
Did
this
you have
show.
3 characters of Jane that you'd love to see?
I mean, I want to see more of the nun, even though that's terrifying. I feel like a Halloween episode with like Jack Straw, the nun, and there's so many creepy ones. Pretty Polly, just because Pretty Polly's never been up,
Yeah.
I think would be.
I'd have to go. My 3 are going to be Penny Farthing. Penny Farthing.
We've seen a lot of Penny.
I know,
Yeah.
but I still want more. Like, I really like this character, especially in this episode. She comes to life in a lot.
Penny for your thoughts.
More, yeah. Oh, there you go. Another pun jar. Then I would like the secretary. I guess that's more of a. I just like the secretary in the way it was. I would love to know why, who.
Take note.
And also, yeah, the look was there. And then I'm gonna go with I'm really a fan of I'm really becoming a fan of Silvertongue, so I'd have to go Driller Bill and Silvertongue is a tie for the third, just to see Driller Bill, just because who was that person in Silvertongue, the way the words come out and just cut. But we did get into the sisters, and these sisters read these tarot cards, and once again gave me another Matrix vibe of the fortune teller in a way, and the keeper who gives you the information, and she's like, go to the well. How did you guys think? What did you guys think of the sisters?
I mean, don't ever listen to a creepy three-headed, terrifying tarot reading demon that's like, go to the well where Miranda died.
It was kind of like the Three Witches too. The Three Witches.
Yeah, it did feel very Shakespearean.
It was, yeah, there was a whole thing. I mean, it was just interesting.
They're just creepy witches.
And especially Miranda dies at the well. And Penny's like, don't go to the well. And she's like, I'm going to go to the well.
I mean, the fact that Penny's like, anytime anybody goes to the sisters say, go to the well and jump into the well. It's like, well, then don't listen to the sisters. The sisters suck, obviously.
Who do the sisters represent?
Geez.
They have to represent someone or something.
I mean, I think just the fear of the future and the fear of like actually having a future that's connected to people or to other things.
They kind of remind me of like the sisters in like mythology. Aren't they called like the Fates or something?
Yes.
They share like an eye or something like
and
that.
they share an eye, a tooth, and an ear.
Something like that. And how they kind of foretell your
cute.
destiny, your fate. So that's what it reminded me of a little bit. They share a body in this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my inspiration. So
It could be the inspiration for the character. I felt that vibe as well. It was definitely in that realm of this is who we are. The tarot says go to the well.
And, well, it's also because like the well is just, it's literally drowning out this idea, the personalities are there to basically cover up this trauma. And so asking questions is what opens up this whole thing. And so I think the sisters are like the Blackeness are just like, hey, we're here as blockades. We're personalities that are literally put here as guards. Like how you have a train conductor, you have guards here that are basically just there to keep you away from this trauma and this memory
But
of
they
Daddy.
let them pass really quickly because Blackeness, who I'm still calling Black Anus, I don't care what anyone says because that's where we're going with it.
I mean, she was a bit of a butt, if you ask me.
But with the claws and everything, she let people pass.
Yeah, but it's like because it's whoever is sent there, like
Everyone's sent there. Like anyone who talks to the sisters is sent there.
that's true, but it's all just like personalities that she has to basically have that second, almost like when you click out of something important and it's like, are you sure? You have to click yes again. I feel like that's basically what she is. She's like your in case you didn't auto-save protection before you click out.
Confirm. She's the
yeah,
confirm.
like, are you sure you really want to delete this personality?
She wasn't.
Because that's basically what you're saying when you go to the well, is it's like, delete Jane, are you sure? Yeah. Like, that's... I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Oliver, what did you think of Blackeness?
the claw. Is that, yeah, she was cool. I want to see more of, I don't think we'll see more of her, but she was cool. She was creepy. I love the horror elements, like creepiness within the underground, because I feel like it's just such a dynamic space. And yeah, that's about it.
Nothing was more creepy to me than Jane's father.
Oh yeah.
Now, let's remove the
Puzzle
molestation
man?
and let's just talk about him as a character and him as a puzzle man.
The effects in this show are dope.
Yeah.
I mean, that puzzle man was terrifying.
It reminded me of Lawnmower Man. It was a very similar graphic and feel to him. I am God here. That one of those feels to it. But it was weird. It was creepy. It was awkward. It was everything it was supposed to be.
I mean, I just liked seeing kind of that as, the juxtaposition too with Cliff, and the whole thing with Cliff being like that moment that he thought was a great moment that turned out to be the worst moment for them because it gave her hope, versus Daddy and all the scenes there where it just felt so hopeless.
Yeah.
It's like she almost feels that she has to confront this hopelessness now, because for the first time there is a hope that hasn't really been there, that she could feel this love and this acceptance that Niles And we even see another flashback of this, of Niles saying, you know, like,
Niles.
I'll still be a father to you. I'll still be that father for you. And why she cares so much for the chief. And this kind of feeling like, you know, Cliff, I'm not going to be your replacement Clara. I'm not going to be your replacement daughter. You're not going to be my replacement chief.
Yeah.
And really nobody can fill that void that was left by this horrible father figure that she had. So, I mean, just seeing, I think, the hope that he represents pushed against the hopelessness and really having to fight. And even Cliff's whole battle, like with him coming to terms with him not being a man, for him to even be able to pass to go and fight Daddy in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a lot of the conflict with Father and the Cliff when he just like bites him apart and throws him around, and that's actually what's the catalyst for Jane standing up for herself, is simply because she saw someone else get hurt. And it wasn't just her. That happens in a lot of situations where people can take punishment themselves, but when they see someone else is getting punished, they often, or at least hopefully, are inspired to stand up.
Because she even says that, where she's like, not him.
Not him.
Like, just not him.
You
And I think
destroy
that kind
everything.
of-
I will not let you destroy him. I hate you, you filthy, disgusting man. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I am not afraid. And that's what eventually vanquishes her father back into the well. And you think she's overcome this fear. It's the beginning of something.
But I think that's also kind of like, it shows, because we have that like little flashback too of Cliff too with the Nernheim again, with the whole like, you're a monster Cliff thing. And it makes sense because if the father figure that she has in her head is a literal monster, it's this puzzle monster that's ripping apart and killing whatever personalities and whatever aspects of herself that she feels she has to feed to it. It's like, that makes sense, as if she sees Cliff hurting other people and acting like in her head a monster, is that's why she has this juxtaposition of this hopelessness versus this hope, versus him acting in a way that reminds her of this traumatic thing. It's just there's so many layers to it. I just really, really liked this.
It was such a good episode. It had a lot of undertones and Cliff.
underground.
Let's talk about Cliff, because Cliff played a huge part in this episode. Cliff is transferred into Jane's mind via the entity inside Danny's body. So here, Negative Man basically just transfers, does something, and juxtaposes his subconscious into hers, and he goes along for the ride. And he enters as Cliff, not as
As Brendan Fraser.
I loved that.
I forget Brendan Fraser voices him.
I don't. I remember.
I can't forget either. It's actually one of the tidbits of the show that I actually love the most, and I really love this show. So it's just something, because Brendan Fraser is a part of my childhood. He was in every single movie that I used to like and I would watch. He was just a fun, lovable character. I mean, who didn't love The Mummy, except for everybody who was Middle Eastern didn't get cast. But other than that, I mean, you gotta still love Brendan Fraser. So his voice, there's something very fatherly about his voice. I enjoy Brendan Fraser's character. Oliver, how did you feel about Cliff, and do you feel like it was Cliff's responsibility to enter Jane? Jane's mind. Enter Jane's mind.
I don't know. It's hard because it's like, obviously he cares about Jane, but at the same time I kind of felt for Jane when she said, "You're entering my mind," and it's kind of like what Karen was doing, entering people's mind and controlling them. But I mean, Cliff's not going to control Karen, but your mind is obviously a very precious, private area. But his intentions, like, I can't fault him because his intentions are to help Jane at the end of the day. And obviously the Negative Man's spirit was there to transport him there. So I think it was necessary for him and for Jane to overcome her father and her past trauma, and to be not to be a victim, but to come out as a survivor of her trauma.
And then Cliff gets arrested promptly by Driver 8, basically snitches on him. Hammerhead and Driller Bill arrest Cliff for being there when he's not supposed to, and they put him in the brain jail.
Yeah, I liked having that kind of back and forth though with Karen, where it's also established that it's not a romantic thing. Like when she's like, "Is this a romantic gesture?" and we see that, you know, Whereas in Jane's mind, those lines are kind of blurred of like what's a father figure versus what's a romantic thing because of this trauma.
Interesting.
And it's kind of alluded to a little bit there, but he's saying like, no, like this is, I care about Jane because she is a person that I care about. Like this isn't a romantic thing. That's not what I'm trying to go for. I'm genuinely just here because I want her to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of what you're saying, though. It is like this invasion where they kind of have their defenses up because it's like reading somebody's diary to the nth degree, you know? But like reading their diary to make sure they're not planning on hurting themselves. Yeah. So.
And we see Cliff being able to pass by Black Ennis by somehow realizing that he's no longer a man. So we see Cliff the man breaks out of jail. Penny Farthing helps him. He somehow chips away a brick wall, goes into a memory, and then follows the path to the well, has to stop Jane going to the well. Then you see him pass by going, I am not a man. I am a robot. And I am a better being because I'm no longer the person that I was.
Right.
And that was just such a powerful analogy, metaphor, all of the above for who Cliff is and who he's becoming.
Right.
And I felt like the best part was when Black Ennis took her claws and tapped him on the nether regions.
Right.
It
The
was
lack
like,
of junk.
You're not a man.
Yeah.
It's like, you, beep, 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 not a man. You are right. Hey, you can go right through.
I just love too Brendan Fraser's mannerisms. Like when he walked, he looked like he still was walking very robotically. Like it just, I wouldn't, if I didn't already know that it was two actors playing the voice and the physicality when it's Robot Man, I would think it was the same.
I actually just thought it was the Botox. So, what did you think of Cliff and Jane? As in, is this father-daughter? Is Cliff basically just juxtaposing Claire, his daughter, into Jane, or is this something different?
Well, I think he needs to. His story arc before he gets to Clara, he needs to kind of find solace within Jane or learn something from Jane, which I think he's already has. You know, you already mentioned before he's overcome so much, and I think Jane can kind of relate to that as well about kind of overcoming your past and you're a better person because of. She's a crazy person and he's a robot, but he's a better person, better being because of. Because of everything that happened to him, and he in them basically just
use
owning
the right
it.
pronoun. Robots are people too.
No, they are apparently so. Brains are people, I guess. There you go.
If I only had a brain.
I only had a brain. That's Doom Patrol in a nutshell. Let's play our game Who You, where you pick a scene that reflected or represented something you loved, hated, or something about yourself. Let's go with Elena.
Ooh, that's hard. I think if I had to be anybody this episode, I'd probably be, I don't know. I kind of felt like I identified a little bit with Driver 8, which I know is weird, but just like her being very protective and calling in for backup when Cliff is trying to infiltrate, but still just being like, I just want to do my job and I want to focus on what I care about and what I'm doing. I don't really need to worry about anybody else's business.
Mm-hmm. I would say Penny Farthing, just because we've all have instances, especially me, kind of running away from your past and trying to forget kind of certain memories because they are very painful, and it's hard to kind of go through some stuff sometimes and to kind of reflect, but also, like this episode kind of states, you have to go through those things. You have to go through sadness and pain to sometimes make you stronger in the end.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to go with the scene at the end where everything's kind of messed up in the lab and they're just like, it's a long story. Let's move on. And they just don't explain it. I don't know. That scene just stuck out in my mind. Out of everything that happened, it was very strong. Such a powerful episode. We do have some news and gossip really quick. Let's just talk about this. Quickly, Doom Patrol star Diane Guerrero, who's amazing, by the way, and definitely deserves something. I don't know if comic book shows get to that Emmy level, but they definitely should, and she's been killing this. This is definitely a breakout role for her in many ways because you're seeing a lot of dynamic to her acting ability. She talks how she plays the 64 personalities of Crazy Jane. It's an amazing interview that you should definitely check out. You can see it on comicbook.com. Make sure to go to it and it pops right up. And she explains how they each have their own powers and goes through a lot of tidbits about this, and it's so very cool. And we're going to get so much more Doom Patrol. Let's get into predictions as we are coming up on what's going on in the next episode.
TV prediction.
Oliver, what do you predict happens? Give me 2 lines.
Hairography. The Hair Patrol's next, so there's going to be lots of hair, wigs, and I'm ready for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know we get a little bit of like Beard Hunter in here.
Beard
I'm
Hunter.
excited about that. I'm excited to see what's going on with Niles, what's been going on with Niles, and where he's trapped and what's happening. I think we're probably gonna get a good look at what kind of check back in with him.
I think obviously Beard Hunter is coming to play. That's going to be a very great character to watch. And of course, let's get some more Niles. We've been missing him.
Yes.
We've been missing him. But
Literally.
Literally. But I hope you guys don't miss us too much. Until next week, where we get more episodes of Doom Patrol. We get episode 10, season 1 next week. But until then, where can people find you if you want to be found, Oliver?
Follow me on all social media platforms at Ollie Dreamer.
Well, since like Brendan Fraser and the Mummy, we got to wrap it up. You guys can find me on Twitter at Elena Jordan and on Instagram at Elena J. Jordan.
She's been waiting to do that.
I have.
However, I have not. I am Tehran, literally at I am Tehran all across the board. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Message me. Love to hear from each and every one of you. And you know I respond to the comments below. So make sure to give us some comments. Until next time, Doom Patrol time, same Doom Patrol channel. We will AfterBuzz this after show the heck out of it. Check us out.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.